today?
Good.
Fantastic.
Hi,
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the first day of class and also creating a positive learning environment and how that all kind of goes together and kind of creates a positive influence in the classroom. So first off, I want to hand out a survey. I'd like you guys just to take about 5 minutes to just complete. It's on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being you like to see that in the classroom, 1 being or you don't like to see it or you don't think it's useful. And if you guys don't have a preference, you don't have to answer it or give it 3. Yeah, 3 is the neutral answer there. You guys about another 2 more minutes or so. About another 30 seconds or so to kind of finish up your thoughts, whatever you guys, like I said, if you guys don't get it, it's fine. Finish it all. All right, if you guys want to go ahead and set your pens down, not a big deal if you guys finish or not, but I just kind of want to get you guys in thinking process, a thought process of, the first day of school. What do you expect? What do you think is important? What do you think is effective for teachers to do on the first day of class to utilize that time? Before we talk about the actual first day of class, though, that one? Okay. Anyways, we're going to talk about constructing a positive learning environment. So a positive learning environment is actually, as defined by the GSKyTeach book, is a productive learning environment is a classroom that is orderly and is also focused on learning. So, obviously in our class, it's pretty focused on learning, on the learning process, as well as it's organized. We have activities, we have lessons, PowerPoints. It all kind of ties together in the end between 5:01 and 5:10. So, the orderly fashion kind of helps to move the class along. But the main parts of positive environment: organization, establishing standards for your students, and also creating a balanced classroom. And the role of the first day of class is also very important into starting the basis for your entire semester or year, depending on how classes are ran. So first off, let's talk about organization. So talk a little bit about organization. Place lecture information, no particular order, doesn't matter. Discuss concepts that are not relevant. So you guys like teachers that go on tangents, So it's favorite, right? Yeah. No concept of time. Who cares about time? It doesn't matter. Throw lecture information together. Another big one, definitely throw papers all over your desk so that it doesn't matter if you're here or not. Just anywhere's fine. You want to make your desk look exactly like that. So, does everybody agree with this type of organization? You guys like this?
Absolutely.
Not at all.
Not at all? Okay. Well, this is what not to do. So when organizing a class, definitely for a desk, you don't want it to look anything like this. So actual organization, what important things we need to think of. So what do you guys think of when we think of organization in a classroom? What do you guys think is important? John, look back here.
The thing that comes to mind for me is a schedule, how things work each day. The students know that they're going to come in and they're going to sit down and may or may not have an activity depending on the type of class, but just an orderly time schedule so they kind of know what to expect.
Okay, I like that. Cool.
That's exactly what I thought of immediately. It was some sort of procedure, and it doesn't have to be the same every day. That's not what I'm saying, but definitely, especially seeing the instructor, like you said, go on tangents or what seem like tangents. If you start doing one thing and they say stop, now we're doing something completely different. Stop, now we're going back to this thing. Stop, something totally different. Doesn't work.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other?
Yeah, just something about organization in general. Could be seating arrangements. I think that factors into organization.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
Maybe organization as far as having, a bin where students turn in their homework or get materials and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And I've seen in classrooms definitely where they've used that a system where you place your homework here, your homework to pick up is here, and it created a lot of better flow for this classroom. So it kind of created just a better environment in general. Yes, Stephen?
I have something in regards to that specifically. I remember we had in my senior English class, we had journals that we had to do in high school.
Mm-hmm.
We had journals we had to do, and she would say, put them on my desk, and that would be that. She would go to teach in the class. What would happen is that people wouldn't do their journals until they were actually in the class. Class wasn't engaging, they didn't have to pay attention. So then by the end of class, they were done. They would just slip it under there, and she would never know.
Never know, yeah. That's definitely Josh.
And the organization of the overall content of the class, because I had one teacher who came in with, he jumped from one subject to another thing, and it wasn't necessarily a tangent, it was just the way that he organized his notes, and it was everywhere, and by the end of the class, I was like, what are we talking about? And so making sure that the content flows with an understanding manner is extremely important for me to understand what the teacher's talking about.
Definitely.
Say, organization, as far as teaching would go, maybe each class kind of summarize what the important points were from that day.
Okay, that's summarize an important point. Yeah, I like that. Okay, yes. Yeah, thank you.
Just to kind of pull everything together in terms of organization, in college, I could not operate in a class if it did not give me a syllabus. I couldn't. It's the Bible for that class, and we had to have it. So yeah, I think classes that don't kind of just have that centralized location to find everything that you need for that class is in some sense disorganized.
I agree. So organization, you guys basically talked about already, establishing order within the classroom, within the lecture. I mean, it's all important, depending on, in the classroom, the organization of students even is, it's crucial, because if you have students whose backs are turned to you, they're turned off to you. So you have to take into consideration how you're going to organize students to where they can all see you, they can all see the board, and they're not going to be distracted by their peers also. So that's very, very important. Routines can be effective. They also can be, ineffective if used too much. What has been found is that, if you follow a general routine is good, but a precise routine, we either do the same thing every day, it can lead to being tedious and boring. But, if the students have a general idea, okay, we're going to start off the day with a, question of the day in the very beginning of the morning at class. That gets them an idea of what to be prepared for later on through the semester or through the year. Time management. There was a table in GSKyTeach that was really I liked, but basically described how you have the allotted time for the class, and from that time you have to basically manage your time in a way that you can take care of all the logistics. Take care of taking roll, take care of getting students seated and everything like that. But also you have to take time to convey the information to the students, as well as getting the students engaged in the actual activities. So time management is very important, because you only have limited time every day, and you only see the students so many times a week. So therefore, time management is crucial. Also, personalized the classroom setup, again, goes to seating and stuff. So just in general, just as long if you organize the classroom is a much better classroom. Also, another thing that I read was that if you have organized work, as Kevin said, when you organize where the homework's here and homework to pick up is here, if students realize that you're organizing, your stuff is not in a clutter, you don't have a pile of papers, they can't come up to you and be like, well, I turned it into you, I don't know what you did with it. Because obviously, if you have a clutter of papers, they could. It's pretty easy to pick that excuse, and whether they're right or not, it's hard to prove yourself. Prove that you either didn't lose it or that they didn't turn it in. But if it's organized, if it's right there, and you put it in a certain file folder or something, it's so organized that you can either pull out the assignments and say, okay, here's the assignments right here. This is what I received. I did not receive this from you, and then work from there to achieve some kind of resolvement on that. So organization and paperwork. Another important thing is establishing standards within the classroom. So standards, they give students guidelines to follow. So what you expect of the students is very important. It develops learner responsibility. So whenever we're trying to achieve our metacognitive and self-regulated students, this is a very important step in achieving this process, because if you don't have a structure for the students don't know what to follow, and therefore they're not able to self-regulate and motivate themselves to progress through your class. So also, positive expectations is very important. So in positive expectations is basically the belief in students. So if you have that beginning belief, like we saw the other day in Freedom Riders, that she had a belief in the students, and it didn't really come to fruition. Like, you didn't see how well or what the progress the students made, but because she believed in those students, and I believe later on in the movie she actually gets books for the students and they do well at reading them and writing in their journals, but because she believed in those students were able to do more. obviously, if you're gonna, you believe your students are, they're the failures of the class, they're just there to babysit, then obviously they're gonna get that vibe from you no matter how much you try to mask it, and therefore they're not gonna learn as well. Does anyone have any ideas of maybe how to convey that positive attitude towards the students, or just in general? Just a belief in the students?
I think part of it is learning, getting to know your students and pick what their strengths are and what they're good at, and feed off of that. Show that you have an interest in them, and that you don't just know their name, you know something about them, and then from that you can show them how whatever your subject is can apply to what it is that they're wanting to do.
I like that, yeah.
And this sort of relates to beginning of the class. I think setting up those positive expectations. One thing you can do is, especially at the beginning, give the students something that they just cannot fail, an assignment that they cannot just do well on, or something that they have to succeed at, basically. Just like
Kind of give them an ego boost almost.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Does anybody else have anything? I like that. Okay. Well, but yeah, basically, another important factor is that you have to express this to all of the students. You can't pick favoritism, obviously, in the classroom, because students are perceptive. They're going to pick that up right off the bat that, oh man, I seem to favor Kevin a lot more than Josh, something along those lines. It doesn't matter. And they're going to pick up on that, and then therefore some of them are going to become unmotivated. It's not going to be a positive environment if you do not express your standards and your expectations for all students. Plus, they have the excuse, well, they didn't do that way, so kind of doesn't help. So creating a balanced classroom. So you have to create a balance between learner-centered, which focuses on the skills that students have and what they bring to the classroom. So other students might have different life experiences about your subject that they can relate to the other students. So learner-centered environment is very important. The only issue with this is that as they are able to socially construct and build information, you can't just solely rely on this. So it's an important factor, but also two more important factors within the classroom is knowledge center. Obviously, you have to present the knowledge to the students. So this is, presenting information, lectures, etc. Activities even. It doesn't have to be lectures, it could be activities. But you have to provide the information to students. You can't rely solely on the students to teach themselves. And then also assessment centered. I know a lot of students like assessments, but you have to be able to grade and have the progress of the students somehow. So assessments is also an important part of the classroom, but any classroom you should have a general kind of a balance between all three of those in order to have create an effective, positive environment within the classroom. So establishing standards, with grading standards. So as we talked about before, the syllabus is a very good way to establish these standards. Also, grading rubrics are very useful. I know that we have a lot in here, and personally, I find them very helpful. They give you a general idea of what you're going to be graded on and how you're going to be graded upon it. So rubrics are also quite useful. It also helps students understand what is expected. So therefore, if the topic, or maybe even a lab report, requires different things, so they need to figure out, well, how much do I need to put in this, or what information. A rubric is a great way to supply that information. Also, establishing rules for class-specific materials. I know as science and math majors, there's equipment that we have that maybe not other classrooms have. English classroom could have maybe textbooks or reading books, reading materials like Romeo and Juliet in the movie. But for us, we might have other materials. I know I'm a chemistry major. In a math class, what would you have, or do you have any specific materials you might give students that you might need special requirements or rules for? Calculators. That's the big thing I can think of is.
Even just like stuff for geometry, like rulers, protractors, scissors, general safety, don't whack your neighbor with the ruler. And a lot of those have gone to like rubber materials so that they are less, you can't hurt someone like with a sharp edged jab.
Yeah, I knew was it the compass that has a really sharp point or?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so definitely, what I put up was, yeah, definitely the graphing calculators. Because I know in my class, no one was allowed to bring a calculator out, and for everyone to be able to leave, all the calculators had to be checked back in, because obviously they're $100 calculators. It's kind of expensive to let students just kind of carry off with. But it's important, especially at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of the year, to present, okay, these are the rules. This is what you have to do in order to be able to use these calculators, and maybe even have them sign an agreement. Another thing is the lab safety rules is also an important thing, especially for the first day class, to go over, okay, this is what I expect from you guys in the lab. You've got to be careful, wear goggles. And I know in my high school, I had teachers that actually sent a letter home to the parents for the parents to sign saying that they read this and they acknowledged that, okay, my student has to obey by the rules or we get in trouble. Which kind of helps get the parents involved also from day one. It also helps. So now we're to the first day of class, and we're going to actually refer to those the surveys you guys took in just a moment. But the first day of class, obviously it's, first impressions are everything, right? So you're going to get the first impression of your students, the students are going to get the first impression of you. It's very crucial that you establish, a positive environment instead of a negative one.
No.
Oh, okay. A positive environment instead of a negative one. So the first day of class is very crucial. There's different techniques and different things you can take into effect on the first day to help build that environment. As Adrian said, and I agree, I think even in the high school, it's more predominant in college because I believe they're required, but in high school, I found in a few of my classes we received a syllabus, and the syllabus as a guide basically through the class is very helpful. To let students know what was expected, give an example of the class structure, so maybe run through the first day of class. Maybe this is a typical day of class, we'll do this, or maybe on a lab day, it'll proceed maybe according to these standards. So classroom procedures. So effects of the first day. So there was actually a study done on positive encouragement. So in this study, which actually, unfortunately, was only over two separate classes. What was done was that it was a psychology and the graduate assistants actually seated the students and picked which class would get what video. One video was recorded from the professor in a very positive and very engaging manner, and then the other one was very negative, very, I don't understand. They didn't really explain how negative he was or the way he acted, but it was a negative video that basically portrayed the class as it's going to be a bad time in the class, So they did this. 2 classes were sampled. The evaluation of the test scores here, actually after the second, third, and fourth test, the students with the negative reinforcement on the first day of first day of classes actually did worse on, especially their final exam, than they did if they received a positive engagement on the first day. And actually they found that, I know test 3 was found to have a p-value of 0.06, so it's not quite statistically different, but for the final exam they did find to have a p-value of less than 0.05. Therefore, on the final exam there was a statistical difference between students and their achievement based on how the first day of class went. And also, students' motivation was also varied for the first 5 days. I don't believe that the p-value was statistically different, but they still reported the results anyways to show that there was a trend of the positive engaged students to be a little bit better or higher motivated for the first 5 days than the negatively engaged students. Which, obviously, if you're going to be mean to your students, it's going to hurt their demeanor and they're not going to care as much about the class. Adrian is. Jim?
Yeah, and then I'm trying to formulate. I didn't know you were going to catch my question so quickly. you remember what the details were on these classes?
The details on these classes, well, for when, like I said, actually the professor did not know which class received what video. It was all up to the graduate assistants to pick, so it was kind of a blind study. The professor didn't know also, and on the second day, the professor came into class and actually apologized for, I guess the premise was that he was out of town, and so we had a previously recorded video. And I think for the negatively, actually for both classes, he apologized for the video and apologized they had to do that. And I think he said that they actually gave the wrong video. So therefore, which he didn't know if it was a positive or negative video, but he basically apologized saying that was the wrong video I gave you guys, I didn't mean to give that to you. And then basically conducted class from a positive view from then on out. I don't know the class sizes.
I mean, do you know, were these classes during the same semester?
Yes, they were the same class. I believe they both started at in mid-morning. They said early morning and mid-morning, I think were the two class times. They didn't give a specific time, but they just,
I mean, my initial thought would just be that those results could very easily be the difference in the time of the class.
Exactly, and I agree, and I think, personally, I feel that they should have done this over more classes, more samples, in order to get a bigger sample size before they actually reported their values. But it's just kind of a general trend, and it's more, they're trying to back up because what they reported was that there's been many theories and hypotheses that, first day of classes, kind of conducts the rest of the year for the students, but there wasn't much empirical statistical data that, supported this. So I think they were kind of creating a small, chunk, but yeah, I agree, they should have more people.
Controls.
Yeah, controls, yeah, definitely. Another study, basically what students expect, which I had you guys fill out a survey, which is the same survey they actually presented to their class to see what they liked on the first day of classes. 146 undergrad students were surveyed, and these are the results. I know it's kind of hard to see, but some of the big ones that they liked or they agreed with was, first day of class. I'm curious what the class would be like. Was an average of about 4.3. Reviewing course syllabus, I believe, was 4.4. And there's apologize that's so small. I should have put that on a slide by itself, but it kind of gets an idea. And again, they only surveyed 146 students. That's why I kind of surveyed you guys also. I'll collect those at the end and kind of see what you guys thought and see how it compares to their results. But I think this is a good determination maybe of getting an idea of what students like, what students think are effective within the classroom, and being able to, as a teacher, to look at this and apply it maybe to my own classroom to pick, okay, students like this, this, and this, how can I incorporate that into my lesson? So, yes, it's good.
I was just going to say, it's a funny point about how important they thought the syllabus was, and as Avery pointed out earlier too. I had it as a 1 though, as not important at all. And I think it's funny because where I went to school, Murray State, every class was required to have a syllabus, every course, and it was even required to have a lot of information on it that the university gave them, and they were required to go over it the first day of class. They were required to go over certain things, and the syllabus had to have so much information. They had to turn it in, and it had to be checked. So that was the most important part of every first day class for me. Was typically we had to sit down, we had it within the course syllabus, and it was just boring. And again, they're going to give it to you. They're required to give it to you, so I can hear you later. So that's just interesting.
Yeah.
To me, it was I don't
Now,
know.
did you find the syllabus helpful afterwards?
Yeah, later on.
Okay, so maybe that process going over it was at the beginning of the
Okay, I mean, I think for me, I could get a really good feel for both the professor and the class by the way that they presented the syllabus, the way that they went through each section. And a lot of times, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure my school was required to, but the details of the syllabus would just not be there. They'd have a very simple university-wide grading scale.
Right.
They would have that academic and dishonesty policy and everything, student accommodation. But less of some sort of, but the details just wouldn't be there. And, if you presented me with that, then you better go over you better have some way to go over the syllabus in detail so that I can get a good feel for, what you want. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper, some words on it.
So do you have
I was looking at the data and I'm just kind of like,
Yes.
I saw this, most of the standard deviation is about 1, and then most of the values are about 1 away from each
Yeah,
other.
it's,
So I'm kind of like, can you really say what you want to do on the first day? It's like, that's, I mean, in my opinion, maybe the scale should jump like 1 to 10, because the values are so close together. How could you even determine? I'm just looking at this study. I wasn't like,
No, I like
you
that.
know,
Plus, and I think a big factor on that might have been the 146 students. They
Yeah.
definitely a bigger test pool.
Yeah.
I think
No, I
it's-
didn't see. I didn't.
Yeah, I think it's a good starting point. But maybe I agree that 1 to 10 would probably be a better scale too.
It just because they're so, the values are so close together to be able to determine, well, I don't really want to spend this much time. Can you really say that with just, with standard deviation of 1 on your value? That's
Yeah.
difficult.
Not to mention, like, I mean, were these students really motivated to take the survey? Most of the means fall around the average value, and of course, yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was just,
Standard deviation of 20% is pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty high, I agree.
it was just an observation that I was just wondering about, because that's hard to make a
Did this,
basic decision.
did this come from the same research paper?
Yes.
Oh, they did a really good job.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, those are different ones than the first one, sorry. I
Oh,
apologize.
okay.
Yeah, 2 different ones.
2 really good jobs.
Yeah. That's it.
No, it really is fine. I was just making an observation about how I would change it.
Anybody have any other comments, statements, either about the research, about maybe just in general, about first day class?
Did they actually, apply this to a classroom, just like spend more time doing something in the classroom to see if it affected student, like the higher scoring, questions, like, spend less time on those or like that?
I'm not sure, it wasn't not on that research paper, but I haven't looked for any others, maybe they have reported, which I think would be interesting to
Yeah,
see.
just to see if it actually increased scores to spend more time on something, maybe, I don't know.
I can buy that. Alright, well, that's it, we're excited.